Happy to see still so many of you. So this is like a late in the day and very hot. I don't have like the aids like a kid or like a very catchy presentation. So I will try to make it energetic for you. I'm with the Golem Foundation. Then like a Wildland and Octant are a project of like the Golem Foundation. So like a Golem Foundation is the way that the founder. And Golem Foundation is a spin-off of like the Golem Network. Those of you who are like long enough in the space may remember the project that we launched in 2016. That was one of the first token sales on Ethereum blockchain, and it happened when we still consider that as rather a way of like the funding project than doing like the bad stuff. Anyway, as the result of those actions, like we at the Golem Foundation found ourselves at some point with the substantial amount of ETH and the mission that is like a building like a use cases for GLM, for the Golem Network token. And Octant is exactly this while trying to do like exciting stuff and fund public goods. So, this is like almost the end of the conference, so you know that already, and I assume like most of them knew that before coming here, that for like a funding stuff, for funding public goods, we need like specifically like the two things. Right? We need a lot of things, but for sure we need funds and we need allocation mechanism. And Octant is all about those two things. So, like of course, like as for the funds, like we have this like 100,000 ETH back since the crowdfunding, and this is like a substantial funding that we want to use in a regenerative way. So we stake all those ETH, and we use for all that happens in Octant only staking revenues. And while we have like a solo stake, those ETH, we are asking like a GLM token holders to lock their GLM in a very simple contract, like a contract that does nothing but locks the GLM and allows us to keep track of the locked GLM, not being moved at the given period of time. And if they do that, we attribute them like the share of the rewards, of the ETH staking rewards. And we do that proportionally. So if you lock 1% of GLM, you get like 1% of staking reward. And if you do not lock, then you don't have any rewards. If you do not take any action, and I will tell more about that in a second, you also have no rewards. But the trick is that obviously, I doubt that 100% of GLM supply will be locked. Like for the number of reasons. Even if you take the ETH as the reference, I don't remember what's the a total supply locked in staking at the moment, like a 25%, 30%, something like that. So we don't expect like a 100% of GLM to be locked in Octant, which means that if this individual reward attribution is linear, we have the huge surplus. And we have a very simple formula, what happens with that funding. So basically, we pass a square root of the percentage of the GLM locked. We calculate percentage of that, and that's the percentage that goes to Octant from all the staking reward, and the rest goes back to the staking pool, minus costs. So this is not like that we are taking the rest for ourselves, but the rest makes this setup even more regenerative. But then that means that we have a pretty big difference between this, the total funding that goes to Octant and what we attribute to the users locking their GLM. And the difference is the matched reward. So basically what creates our matching fund. So just to give you an example, if you have theoretically 25% of the supply locked, that means the square root of 25% is 50%, and that means that 50% of all the staking revenue goes to Octant. The rest is restake to increase the rewards of the next epochs, And out of this 50%, like a 25% points are the revenues on the individual levels, and 25 are is the matched reward pool. And for the reference, we have like a 14% of the all GLM supply locked at the moment. And like if you are locking GLM, you can claim all that reward for yourself. So this is like the kind of like a staking operation for you. But you can also decide during the period that we call allocation window, you can decide that you actually donate some of it or all of it to the public goods projects. And how much you allocate is decisive on how the matching pool is distributed. So basically, you get like a massive leverage out of all those like a voluntary taxation that you make. And I know that this is a little bit late, so I will run through that once again, but with the nice graphs. So we, as Golem Foundation, we stake ETH, and that generates through proof of stake some accumulated staking rewards. And then we look at like how many people lock that in Octant. We pass some to Octant, some goes back to Golem Foundation and to restaking. And the total rewards are split into matched rewards that go to the projects and user rewards, so individual rewards that people can claim. And then people can just claim their rewards, take that to their wallets, end of the story. But they can also donate to the projects, and that it gets like a matched funding and goes to donation recipients. And there are also some like other things that I don't have time to describe to you at the moment, but makes the design even more robust. So where we are at the moment, we are we concluded in July Epoch 0. So that was like a mostly marketing event, but also like event to bootstrap the community. We have distributed $1 million to 10 great projects, and we did that with the POAP vote. We have invited all those projects to participate, and in fact, like the results basically, I think, reflect how strong those projects were mobilizing their community. So that was like in a kind of like a popular vote with POAPs. And that resulted in the following, like a distribution of funds. But in Epoch 1, that has started on 8th of August and will conclude on the 19th of October, we will already have the vote with the revenue from locking GLM. So the rules will be totally different, and like the community of people will be a little bit different. We are already accumulating funds for the first epoch, like the last of our 3,125 validators become active at the beginning of September. And yes, and we will have the first allocation period between 19th of October and the 2nd of November. And after that, we will have like the epoch like every 90 days. And this is like a 90 days basically to have enough time to accumulate ETH rewards and do all the like housekeeping needed around that. Like the list of the projects for the first epoch is not closed yet. First, we will for sure have these 10 projects, but we will also curate, and also like with the community input, we hope, we will add like 5 to 10 more projects to this first epoch. So if you are interested in that, you will find all the details on Monday in our social media. We will be announcing that. Like the details, like how the procedure will look like on Monday. Which brings me to the end of the description of Octant. But I actually wanted to share with you some more thoughts I have on the general ecosystem of public goods funding in Web3 and beyond. And actually, I'm pretty happy because, like, you know, we are quite theoretical on things right now because we have launched, but this is like a first epoch, so we are actually like experimenting with that and funding ourselves how it works. But still, listening to the previous presentations, I see that a lot of the speakers like share my sentiment on certain things. So I hope this will be not like a repeating the same mantra again, but like a reinforcing like what's important and what decisive for the success in our space. So coming back to the first slide, we need sustainability and we need like a decision mechanism for all that thing to be successful. And I think we have like a very interesting experiment in Octant on both. But the question is how we can make that more universal and how we like translate that as the concepts, not necessarily as the Octant success, but as a concept to the like a success of the wider ecosystem. So in general, I believe that there are some like I have defined like 3 basic rules for the success of like a Web3 funding. Like I call them Web3 public goods funding precepts for our bright future. And I think like the first one is that we need to mobilize capital, not funds. We need to create funding machines and not like a public goods funding projects. And also we need cooperation and not competition. And I will try to like describe all those points. So first, we need like a capital, not funds, and by that I need like I understand like a sustainability. So basically something that can regenerate itself, can create like a stable source of revenue that you can tap into to create stable source of public goods funding. And of course, like a pile of gold is not sustainable. Creating value out of thin air is kind of not sustainable. I'm not really sure about that because this space is like great in creating value out of thin air, and actually everything we do so far is done that way. That like probably like a long term we need to do better than that. And also, I firmly believe that donations are not sustainable. So if we will try to run the whole system on donations, this will not really work. And like actually, we have like great examples of income to capture happening right now. Of course, like there is like a category that like a golem belongs to, and I call that like a category like ICO dragons. So basically, like back from the old time, not necessarily from the ICO, but back all the old time, you have like a treasure chest, and you have a seat on that chest, and you don't really know what to do with that chest, because you're a dragon. So like like have you ever heard about like a dragon spendings? Not really. So like this ICO dragons, I think this is like a category like with a high potential. And I hope we are like the showcase how that can be done. We will be a showcase how that can be done. But in fact, like any treasure chest, like falls into that category. So I believe that we can build mechanism that would allow for ETH staking that at the same time like promotes public goods funding. So we don't have in Ethereum, we don't have taxation on the protocol level. But does not prevent us from building on top of Ethereum ETH staking projects that would allow for self-taxation, that would like encourage self-taxation through making it fun, through gamifying that, through making it simple. So I think there is like a huge potential to untap potential. There's potential in untapped potential. No, there is a huge opportunity in untapping potential of all this wealth that are sitting not used on Ethereum blockchain. And of course, if you happen not to be Ethereum layer 1, then network or protocol fees are the great way to go. We could see that today in the Optimus presentation. I think there are other examples as well. So I think in the end, like any value that can generate like a low risk income and can be like a gamified or incentivized or like the mechanism designed into public goods funding will do. Yeah, well, that was what I said already. So I went a little bit further than I showed you my slides, but I think like a staking, voluntary taxation, and gamifying are basically like way to go with those all like wealths that we could try to use for funding public goods. And this is like what I call like a funding machine. So if you have like the source of income, of like a revenue that you can tap into, and then you build like a funding machine on top of it to incentivize like certain behaviors, to have allocation algorithms that would involve your community or target community into like a decision-making mechanism. The last point about like a cooperation and not competition, like this is, I think this is like a kind of non-obvious, surprisingly, because like we tend to believe that the public goods are non-competitive, and the question is public goods funding non-competitive? Like, well, in a way it is not competitive, but on the other hand, I can see like a project like a competing, on one like who does that better, who create like a more like a positive externalities for themselves in the process. I can see like a public goods funding like limited to the single part of the ecosystem. So this is all like a kind of like a competitive behavior that I think we should be trying to avoid. And I don't see that as a problem at the moment, because just because of how it is happening right now, I see public goods funding at the moment as like the highly fragmented on the like a technical level. So basically like everyone does their stuff and something happens there. But on the other hand, as for what is getting funded, I basically think that we are quite all right in most of the cases. So this is not like that. I don't like the Optimist funds only like Optimist stuff, like a Filecoin only funds like a Filecoin stuff, and so on. No, this is not the case. We go broader, and this is great. But I think like we can gradually increase the level of cooperation. I believe like a joint efforts to at least like keep like the record of what's happening, and in evaluating what is the impact is like a minimum. So like I think like the things like the I don't remember the name, like with this projects registry by Gitcoin or HyperCerts or other initiatives like that are probably like a good starting point that we could evolve like a further to ensure this layer, or like it works on the proof of uniqueness, whether this is like the Gitcoin passport or something else. So I think this is like a minimum, that we have these building blocks that we can use. But I think that we could even try to create interconnected funding system that would allow, I don't know, Octant users donating to Gitcoin round, for example, or vice versa, or doing like any other like a crazy stuff with that. That would be like a really end game that I would like to see at some point in the future. So if you want to learn more about Octant, not about all the science fiction stuff that I talk later, here is the barcode, and thank you very much.